and this is my daily Good Life meditation. This is a live video exercise that I do every morning at around 5:30 a.m. I do this to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use this time to think about the last 24 hours and review any noteworthy events that occurred, challenges that I faced where I either did very well or very poorly, because those are the two outer edges that help me to improve. I also go over my creed, plan for the coming day. But first, I'd like to say hello to new subscribers to the channel. It's good to have you here. I do make this video every day, and you're welcome to join me. It's a live video, like I said. However, this is a video about me, and it's my own introspective activity. I do read and respond to comments, but I wait until the end to do that. You're welcome to leave any comment or criticism you like. I do also talk about sensitive subjects, so be prepared if you're sensitive to things like death or lack of a belief in God. Things like that sometimes make people uncomfortable. And I always talk about death, and I sometimes talk about other things as well that make people uncomfortable. Again, I'm at liberty to discuss any topic I want, given that this is my own video. All right, I do want to also say thank you, a huge thank you to my supporters, those who watch my videos and who actively support me as members on YouTube and my patrons over on Patreon. A quick check of the weather at just past 5:30 a.m. here in Japan. It's in the red zone on both ends at 28 degrees. It's a little hotter than yesterday. Wow, even though it's overcast. Yesterday we were at 25 degrees this time, and 82% humidity. And I think we were at over 90% humidity at this time. I think it was 25 degrees and 90% humidity. No, 84. It was 84. It was only a little bit more. So a little bit cooler and a little bit more humidity yesterday than now. So it'll be interesting to see how the day unfolds. We're headed for a rainy day, so I think that will play a factor in it. Hopefully that will also bode well for my sustainability throughout the day. I'm really suffering in this heat, given that I have no air conditioning, just living with my little fan here. The heat really takes it out of me. Now let's go ahead and move on to the main part of this activity, which is to review the last 24 hours notes. I have 3 notes here. Let me read all 3 of them. The first says, flying above the waves. And this kind of reminds me of the sea plovers. I've got these little antiques that one of these antique items that I have in my store. It's topical to this note. Let me bring it out and stand it by as a prop in this little plate. The first note says, flying above the waves. The second one says, old challenges, no match. And the third one says, exhausted. So let's go over those 3 again, one by one and all together, actually. So flying above the waves refers to how I passed the day yesterday. Remember I said, I'll talk about the last 24 hours, noteworthy challenges and opportunities, and these include anecdotes about specific things that happened. And I'm not here to share the anecdote necessarily, but to capture the spirit of it, and particularly the details related to why I either failed or why I succeeded, so that I can do less of the former and more of the latter. But flying above the waves isn't an incident, it's an overall characteristic of how the day went yesterday. And I might throw in some anecdotes, but I might just speak to the larger qualitative analysis of the day. Take a look at this old antique plate. These are sea plovers, and those little birds that you see. And what you see them flying around that kind of look like leaves. In fact, those are waves, ocean waves. And sea plovers are famous in Japan and very popular as artistic motifs. They're small birds, small shorebirds that have the ability to cross vast stretches of sea, or maybe not vast, but stretches of sea, even in tumultuous, turbulent weather, flying in lines like this, up and over, just hugging the waves like fighter jets, just going with the waves. And the Japanese have long admired that tenacity and perseverance and skill in being almost stealth-like across the sea. That's what yesterday felt like. And to elaborate upon that, we need to go to the second line here. Old challenges, no match. So Here's what happened. I will throw in some facts. Yesterday was the third match for this game that Yumiko and I are playing. A Boca, I think it's called Bocha. I still don't know how to pronounce it right. It's a ball game. And we got invited by the community at large to represent our community in a neighborhood match, which we won. My team won first place, Yumiko's team won second place, and as a result, the two teams were combined together and sent off to the city finals. And we then, we went, oh, actually there were two matches, and then we went to the city finals, which the city finals were yesterday. And representatives from the various neighborhoods throughout the city came together at the big downtown auditorium, and we had a big match. And it was a big event, big, well-organized event, as Japanese, organized in the best Japanese sense. Now, as a result, it was very long. It started at 9 a.m. and was scheduled to last until 3 p.m. And Japanese events like this are very structured and organized with long-winded speeches, pomp and circumstance, protocol. A lot of it is like a military drill in some ways. It's not just about like, let's get together and play softball and have fun. It's like, let's go through all the thing and march and drill. And, we didn't actually march and drill, but you get the idea. And I had forgotten in my time, if you're new to my channel, I used to live in Japan before. I raised our daughter here until she was a teenager, and then we went back to America, finished high school and at a university there, and then the whole family came back to Japan, and that was just recently. I had forgotten in my 11 years back in the States that one of the things that I found difficult about Japanese culture was that draconian almost allegiance to protocol. And then seemingly sometimes unnecessary attendance to detail, like the reading of the rules. And we must have spent 40 minutes going over the rules when we had already, everybody there had already played and won multiple games just to get to the finals. But we had to go over the rules yet again. And this is very Japanese to do this type of stuff. And the Japanese are very good at just standing there and, participating. It's their culture after all. Me as a foreigner, particularly a hippie, raised by hippies, a hippie child raised by hippies in the United States in the 70s, a little less so. Now, in the past, when I lived in Japan, and I found myself in such a circumstances yesterday, I didn't handle it well. My displeasure at being so indisposed as to have to stand in this setting and go through this structured orientation when I just wanted to get and play the game and get the hell out of there, right? Because I wasn't feeling good because of the heat after all. I wouldn't have worn it well. And it was like the old song, "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend," and when about an hour into the experience yesterday at the event, I realized that I was wearing the same face, the mask and facial features that I used to wear when I lived in Japan before, when I was in such a situation and I couldn't contain myself. The Japanese have these words for the public face and the private face, and you wear your public face at all times in public, and you keep your private face to yourself. You show it to your closest friends and family. I have no such difference between public and private face. Whatever I'm feeling inside shows up on my face on the outside, as hard as I've tried. And about an hour into this yesterday, I was exhausted from the heat. I didn't feel good. Yumiko was too, but she's Japanese, so she can pull it off. And I realized, this is coming back to the notes, right? The notes say, flying above the waves, old challenges, no match, okay? And exhausted, so let's combine all three of those together. I was exhausted, and the comment was, no challenge, old challenges, no match, and flying above the waves. Now, before when I lived in Japan, and I'm not trying to sell my book, but I didn't have the benefit of going alone. I didn't have the benefit of living and experiencing and writing, codifying, and practicing every day the creed that I've laid out in this book. Now, and yesterday wasn't the first time this happens. It happens a lot. I saw what was happening about an hour in, and I realized, oh my God, I could see it on my team members' faces, because as the foreigner, they give me special attention. They want to make sure, because I'm kind of the guest, that can be a frustrating point in its own as a foreigner living in Japan, is that you're always a guest. But I mean, it's considerate. And you could see on their face that they could read on my face that I wasn't having a good time. And that was Brett dragging the whole team down. Now, like I said, 15 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do anything about that. I would I would have done my best to gambaru on, and then my teammates would have realized wouldn't have a nice time, and they probably wouldn't invite me back next year because they know what a miserable time I had this year. Now, so here's what I did. Here's where I'm going to start enlisting some hashtags for my creed. Of course, the first thing I did was hashtag temperance. I said, well, the first thing I did was hashtag reason a little bit. I said, whoa, Kurt, look what's going on. Hello, darkness, my old friend. You're back where you used to be 15 years ago. Can you do better this year? You don't want this time around because you don't want to be that guy anymore. Hashtag reason. Put the reason to effect. I said, okay, Kurt, biochemistry is a little bit down. I think I've got the internal fortitude that I can gambaru on. Gambaru means, struggle on. But biochemistry is down. I really felt bad. I felt like dizzy. I thought maybe I can give myself an external jolt. So I waited for a moment between matches when my team had stood aside and another team was playing, and I told Miko, I'm going for a sports drink or a Coke or something like that for a caffeine hit. I raced out to the auditorium thingy and put on the big slippers and went to the bank of vending machines, and no Coke in there, but I found a Wanda morning shot coffee, which I knew had a lot of caffeine. 150 yen, bang, little tiny can, pop that thing, put it in the thing, back inside, and it worked. I showed up, and as I was shuffling back into the team, I could feel the exhaustion kind of taking a back seat as my energy, the caffeine hit and rose, and I was back. And now that did an interesting thing, and I knew that it would. It did two things. One, I had the caffeine boost. That was the artificial stimulation to kickstart me back into gear. Once I was back into gear, that's when I took over. Okay, my mood had switched artificially, but I then leveraged that into an in fact change in disposition. I jumped on it using hashtag reason again, observing. Okay, here I am. I'm back. Okay, Kurt, don't let this go. Don't let the caffeine bubble me up for a while. Grab hold of this. Grab hold of the reins and take control, Kurt. And that's where old challenges no match. And I did. And I popped back in. I put on kind of I did the Japanese thing. I put on kind of an artificial smile. I started to vocally exclaim, not just at my own team's activities, but at other teams as well. I started, nudging my teammates, saying stuff. And that stuff has kind of a catalyst effect and kind of a contagious effect. And it causes everybody to kind of engage. It's a human thing. That's like ants rubbing antennas together, passing chemicals, it kind of infects everybody. And so it came right back on me. About 35, 40 minutes later, the caffeine began to wear off, but it was too late then. I had climbed on top of the horse and I was riding. They carried me all the way through to lunch. And when lunchtime came, I didn't let my guard down. In fact, I went out back to that bank of vending machines and got a sports drink that had a lot of sugar in it. And I said, I'm going to have this on reserve just in case lunch starts to go bad. I put it in my bag and I didn't even drink it. Instead, I just sat there and I engaged in my teammates. I talked to them, all in Japanese. I was really, really pulling it off. It was really good, and it was all contrived. I didn't want to really be there. I don't really enjoy that type of event, but I was. My wife was visibly pleased. She was happy that I was participating, that I wasn't a sulking outsider. Even though I was lame in my speech, and awkward in my everything. People seemed to be glad that I was there, and because I was being fun. Yep, you're actually there. I asked all kinds of questions. Everybody, because we never really had a chance to talk. It was our first time to sit down as a team and talk, and they had all kinds of questions about our life in America and what it was like to live in America, and our daughter, and we asked them questions about their kids because they're all our age. It's all grown empty nesters. Most of them retired. It really went well. So I mean, that was great. So again, I felt like I was flying above the waves, whereas 15 years ago I would have flown back to the beach and sat there and sulking on the sand while my coworkers, with their Japanese spirit and their ability to have their public and private face, would have carried on without me. I would have sat there on the beach as part of the team and probably not invited back next year because that was such a such a sore loser, and such a sorry team member. But I didn't do that yesterday. I'm sure I'll get invited back next year, because I was one of the gang. It was contrived, and it was as it was, and I didn't even need to use that sports drink. I just had it in reserve, just that one shot of coffee. So this was me leveraging my own values, namely #reason, #temperance. Also, I used #the social principle as well to remind me of the importance of that social setting and the engagement that I was involved with, and I pulled it off. So yesterday was a good day in that capacity, but that's not how I measure the day anymore, is it? I measure the day now. I have a new metric, don't I? Which is to go over the eight objectives of my creed, and to give myself either a check mark if I met it in the last 24 hours, a dash if it was non-applicable, or maybe I should just write NA, or an X if I failed. So let's measure it. And this is the third day in a row that I'm using this measure. Yesterday was really the first full day that I used it, and it really had an impact on me. Yesterday was the first day that I actually wrote out ahead of time 1 through 8. I'm going to put the marks there. In yesterday's notes, you can see I have the 1 through 8 there, and I got check marks for all of them except number 5, which was NA. Number 5 is good in effect, and that is the applying my values to good efforts, to do good things relative to my values. I didn't have an opportunity yesterday, but let's see how I did today. And that had a big impact, because through the day, as I was feeling good, I kept reminding myself, but Kurt, in terms of metrics, you nailed it yesterday before. Take it easy on yourself. It really worked. So let's try again today. So, reciting from my creed, from the chapter titled The Good Life, the first of my 8 objectives, and I'm going to put a mark next to it to see how I did, is to be always ready to die. So I have to ask myself, yesterday, were my affairs in order? Yes. Are my relationships sound? Yes. And is my life's work complete, or at least in a clean state? Absolutely. Check, check, check. I get a check for number 1. As I expect I probably will every day for the rest of my life, because there's really not much left to do. That's the benefit of being 61 and referring back to if I've lived well, then I get to ride that inertia for the rest of my life. All right, number 2, the good and effective use of my time. Did I use yesterday well? Absolutely. I spent more than almost a full day with the community, making good use of that, and I've already talked about how I made very good use of that time. Also, I played my trump card with regard to my freedom, and I decided to work yesterday too. I listed an antique item and an inventory item. That was a good use of time as well. And there were a couple of little incidental things with my extended family as well that were good uses of time. So yes, check mark there. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. All I need to do to get a check mark here is to review my 8 objectives and one of my principles, and that's good enough. And I did that yesterday. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions. I knocked that one out of the park yesterday. And if it sounds like I'm being quite self-congratulatory and flattering now, this is my video. This is my journal entry. If I want to, I can write in my journal entry, "Dear Diary, I did really well yesterday." So that's what I did. So that's what you're looking over my shoulder. I really knocked it out of the park yesterday with regard to good emotional reactions. Yes. Did I perform good actions relative to my values? Well, I wouldn't say that anything actually jumped out at me, but I didn't, in terms of like a negative imprint, I didn't do anything that I think would be otherwise. It was just run-of-the-mill stuff. So I'm going to give myself another dash for that one. Just nothing really challenged me. I can't think of anything that was really a good opportunity. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities. Man, I nailed that one as well. Recognizing my limits at the event yesterday, seeing my old self emerging, and then seeing that as an opportunity to change and putting into place a plan and action to see that change through. Bang. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time, and do that thing slowly and deliberately and carefully. And yes, I was very measured yesterday. Finally, 8 is balance. Did I achieve a state of balance in both body and mind? Absolutely. Again, that's something I don't really have to work on. It just comes as a natural consequence of the first 7 objectives, particularly number 1. Let's read one of the principles. Today I'm going to read the principle titled Home of Good and Evil. Again, in the book, in the chapter titled The Good Life. The home of good and evil. You can just imagine what that is, but it's talking about the place where right and wrong, the code of ethics resides. And the whole purpose of this is for me to remind myself that since I don't believe in God and I don't believe in, there's a code of right and wrong that pervades the universe. That right and wrong are basically subjective definitions that we agree upon, that we reach through agreement through societal efforts, interchange, and the codification of laws. They're messy business, right and wrong. I have no higher authority to appeal to other than the state which governs me. But even then, the higher authority to that is my own constitution. My purpose in writing this particular principle was to remind myself that right and wrong need to be hammered out within our minds and then maintained there. And it takes a lot of work to do so. The home of good and evil is right here. And then there's a quote by Aristotle. Activity in accordance with virtue is virtue. Here's my writing. The home of good and evil. A catalog of right and wrong maintained by that little mortal within my head. Remember the little mortal within your head? 2 principles back. The homunculus, right? Maintained by the homunculus. I imagine the homunculus up there in its little Anchorhold, the principle after that, sitting there with a little library of books that constitute what constitutes right and wrong for that individual. A catalog of right and wrong maintained by that little mortal within my head, containing both opinion and judgment, and suggestive of a platform of subjective responsibility. Subjective. It's kind of scary when you think that right and wrong, good and bad, are subjective. The homunculus owns this list and has the responsibility to develop and vet its contents, as well as reconcile these with the reasoned opinions of others. So the homunculus, our little consciousness, has the responsibility to go over the universe's experiences, come up with an idea about what constitutes right and wrong, and then reconcile that against the opinions and the suggestions of others, including the others that constitute the state in which we live. Good and evil then become perspective and opinion, dangerously subjective, yet also subject to the truth-finding powers of reason, honesty, and objectivity. So dangerously subjective, but quite malleable to the extent that we can use our better faculties of reason. We can use our efforts towards honesty to hammer out the true form of these things relative to our experience and the shared experience of others. Argument and discussion are the tools of reconciliation when such opinions differ, and consensus reached in this way has more authority and force than the proclamations and commandments of 1,000 fictitious gods. A call to action to do the hard work, to determine if our ideas about right and wrong, good and evil, so to speak, are true, and not just lay weight upon the authoritative proclamations of those who are strong, those who are eloquent, and as enticing as it might be, the allure, like the sirens into the rocks, leading us into the rocks, the allure and ease of dogma. Okay, and tradition. Watch out for tradition too. Continuing on with the day, we're going to talk about what I'm going to do next, but quick check of the weather. It's risen now to, it's closing on 29 degrees. Whoa, 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 there's a hornet. Where'd it go? I had a giant hornet buzzing at my feet. And this is, we're moving into September. That's when they get dangerous. So the big giant hornets that I see here in the bamboo forest behind me are going to become upset. What's going to happen is, in a few weeks, the queens are going to stop giving out the instructions to the queens of the hornet nests are going to stop giving out the instructions to their daughters that make up the nest. And that's going to bring chaos and confusion, which is going to cause the daughters to eventually kill their queen. And the daughters, the hive, the nest will go into disarray, and the hornets will become like Ronin samurai, roaming around, ready to take on anything. Right now, for all the months through the summer so far, the hornets that I see here on my balcony are just coming through looking for food, looking for prey. But soon they're going to be crazy, and they're going to come by looking for trouble. So I got to watch out. All right, so temperature is rising and humidity is rising as well. Oh boy, I'm in for trouble. The next 24 hours, it's a Monday. So, darn it, I had tried to set up my store, my online venues, to shut them basically down for business from the United States because of the tariffs that are turning on this coming week. Well, actually, maybe that's next week on the 29th. So 9 days. What is it? No, 4 days away. 4 days away from the tariffs turning on, and I don't want my United States customers to be hit with an $80 to almost $100 bill just for buying a bag of tea from me when the postman comes at the United States and says, "Here's your bag of tea from Japan. Give me $80 to $100 to Uncle Sam to get it, to receive it." I don't want him to do that. So I thought I had configured all my online venues to exclude America from purchases, but an American purchase got through over the weekend. So something was wrong with my configuration. So instead of trying to cancel it, I'm going to try to, there's a workaround, kind of, to reduce the tariff from a blanket $80 to $100 to about 15% of the sale. I'm going to contact the buyer today and let them know that their purchase is not going to beat the tariffs, give them an opportunity to cancel their sale, and tell them that I have a workaround in place if they want to pay the 15% tariff. We'll see if they try to go for it, if they want to go for it or not. Probably they won't. I'll probably end up canceling the sale. Anyway, that's the plan for today. Yumiko is going to help me with that today, work on that shipping solution, and then I'll work on listings. I'll work on my store, even though my store is closed. Hopefully, eventually the tariffs will be canceled or remediated in some way, or changed in some way, or Americans will get used to it, and I'll be able to reopen my store. But for now, my business is basically shut down. Okay, I've covered everything. Let's go over comments. Hi, Tim. Good morning. Weather check in the UK at 9:38 p.m. 18.7 C and 57% humidity. Beautiful. Green zone there all around. Back over 30 C tomorrow. Oh, okay. Well, it's going to start raining this afternoon here, Tim. It's going to rain for days. Although we've had that happen a couple of times where the forecast says it's going to rain and then it doesn't. So we'll see. Dr. Matt J. Buchanan. Hello, Dr. Buchanan. I think I remember seeing your name a long time ago. It's good to see you back, if you're the same Dr. Buchanan that I remember. Hi, Kurt. Always good to see you again. I have been watching since 2006. Ah, you are the same one. 2007, back from the old days. Glad you have rekindled your passion for antiques. Thank you very much, Dr. Buchanan. I appreciate that. Robert there. Hey, Robert in Canada. Says hi to everybody and chimes in at 26 C and 50% humidity. That's pretty nice, actually. Air quality at 26. That air quality seems to have remained at that same level for a while there, Robert. And of course, that is in Napanee, Ontario, Canada. Tim says hi to Robert. Dr. Buchanan says hello to all. 37 C here, 60% relative humidity. Yikes, 37 and 60%. Oh, there's a hornet. That's actually a wasp. Can you see it right there? That's not a dangerous one. So I think I can carry on. I think you can you see it? It's right there. It's small and it's not dangerous. It's just a curious little wasp. And that's right by the camera. Let's see. Wow, there it is. Whoa, right in my face. Okay. Hey, there's Evelyn. Hi, all. I believe you were playing Boca Ball. Yeah, bocce ball. That's right. Still popular with Italian older adults. I believe it originated in ancient Egypt. Is that right? Wow. Robert says hi to Evelyn. Evelyn says hi to Robert. Tim says the temperature risen slightly to 18.9. Yeah, wow, it's amazing how quick it can change. There's another hornet. That's a different one. That's a big one. There's a lot of them. This is the third hornet or wasp to visit me this morning. Hello, Julie. Julie BBB. We have 70 degrees Fahrenheit and 70% after a cool, cloudy morning. Some pretty nice humidity. Here's the wasp back. That's the same one that was here just a second ago. Okay. Good to see you, Julie. Hey, Whiskey, haven't seen you for a while. Hello, been a while. Yeah, you had a video about retirement regrets or something. What is the latest? Well, the latest is that if you were asking about retirement, is that I'm still struggling with freedom. I don't know very well what to do with myself. Evelyn, you would laugh. I had some funny conversations with Yumiko yesterday about hobbies, and I was telling her how everybody keeps telling me get a hobby, and I keep telling them I don't want a damn hobby. And then yesterday, oh, there's that hornet, that wasp is back. And but then I was talking to her, and I was like, well, maybe I do need a hobby. Because and I showed her. I actually made that little image, and I showed her that image that I made, prompted by your thoughts, Evelyn, about I made, no hobbies for this guy. And I said, can you make that shirt for me? And then I had second thoughts. I was like, I know maybe I should just take up fishing. So to answer your question, Whiskey, I'm still struggling, but the struggle is not. I mean, it's like as far as struggles go, I mean, it's a dangerous struggle. The struggle, the problems that I'm having with retirement is no laughing matter. I mean, for a lot of people, and I think I'll get a hallelujah from Tim, who's seen it himself. A lot of people, fall down really, really hard in retirement, and they don't climb back out. So it's a little bit like laughing my way through a quicksand mired swamp, right? I mean, I can say, yeah, I'm struggling to get through this quicksand mired swamp, but it's not that quicksand isn't dangerous. It's just that I think I'm picking my way through, and I think I'm going to get through. So hopefully that answers your question. You had a video, okay, and there Robert says hi to Julie BBB and Whiskey. Whiskey says thanks for the update. Is it a question about what to do with your time and things to do to keep busy? It's more of a challenge of spending my entire adult life actively engaged in either education or career, and to suddenly have all that come to a stop. It's, I think, directly analogous to a convict who is sentenced at maybe age 17 to 50 years in prison, spends their entire 50 years in prison, and is released in their late 60s. The warden, escorts them out the front of the prison, gives them with a fresh suit of clothes on and a bus ticket to anywhere, and says, enjoy your freedom. That's exactly what it's like. What the hell do you do with that when you don't know, when you're not accustomed to being free? Tim says, haha, was just going to say fishing. I see all the guys fishing on my morning walks. They never seem to catch anything, lol. Tim, I didn't bring up fishing just out of haphazard. I've noticed the same thing. I see the guys, there's a great fishing here where I live. Just down at the harbor, they're down there, they're catching great seafood, and the rivers are beautiful, and it's really, really nice. And they seem to be really enjoying the passage of their time, and they get to be alone. None of them sit together. They all sit by themselves, because I don't want to be sitting with anybody. Fishing seems to be, and there's a big fishing store just down the road. And I keep telling my wife, I said, I might go get a fishing pole. Evelyn says, for me, it's staying interesting and being interested in things. Yes, well put, Evelyn, I agree. Tim adds, just unsure I could sit in any one place staring at water in the hope of a fish. Me too. I have a feeling that I would invest the money in the fishing equipment. I would use it once or twice, and it would never get used again. If I did catch a fish, I wouldn't know what to do with it. Although maybe I could learn. And Evelyn, back on the hobby thing, you and I both know that there's the whole hashtag distraction element to hobbies, right? That's the part that's so viscerally that I disagree with, that I don't, the reason I don't want hobbies is because I don't want the distraction of hobbies. But Evelyn, the thing is, I've spent enough time looking into the void. I don't know that I really want it. Maybe I need a distraction to stop looking in the goddamn void, because there's nothing out there after all. I know, and I probably made Evelyn laugh, hopefully, because there are fishermen along the canal, probably a lot different at sea. There's a big harbor here, the Shimizu Harbor, Tim, and they've got just line after line of these long concrete breakwaters that go out, and you can just go out there and sit there and you can dip your pole in the water, and there's great fishing, really, really good fishing right there. You can pull in really the kind of stuff you go to the market and get right out of the sea. Yeah, and then up in the rivers, it's just this beautiful kind of atmosphere. Return to poetry. You know what, Evelyn? It's funny that you say that. Return to poetry. Actually, I tried to write a poem yesterday, and it just, the words weren't there. And that was funny because, going alone is just chock full of poetry. I call it poetry that I had no choice in. I was compelled to write, and now I can't seem to pull it off even if I try. Tim says, probably why I play guitar, as it is more interactive and immediate. Tim, I took my guitar down to the local guitar store and I'm getting it tuned this week, Tim. And me too. And I can't really play songs, but I like to just sit and strum it. It's like it gives me something to do, and I like the quiet tones as I can smell my wife's cooking from downstairs. It's very, very nice. Evelyn remembers me doing that because I know you've mentioned it, Evelyn. Back in Huntington Beach, I'd sit out on the porch, feeling the coastal breeze blow across, watching the ocean clouds flow by while my wife was cooking dinner. I got the guitar basically to give me something to do, just strum away at while dinner's being cooked. Julie adds, I just don't see it as a distraction. For me, it's an engaging activity that lets me be productive. I'm sorry if I'm not being very clear about the distraction element, Julie. The book that I wrote, Going Alone, has there's an element in it called the principle of distraction, and that's what I'm referring to. So I know it's not like a distraction, like a bad thing, but the principle of distraction suggests that God doesn't exist, that it's a universe empty and devoid of absolute meaning. And what we are doing with our hobbies is we're keeping ourselves and our job and our families and our politics and our friends and our gossip, is we're keeping ourselves busy, 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 so that we don't have to turn around and observe that we're on our own in the universe. Evelyn, did I sum it up pretty good? I think I summed it up pretty good there, huh? And that's why when you hear me rallying against distraction, it's because I believe a more worthwhile and a better hashtag use of time is to turn around and face the emptiness. Now, maybe some people will turn around and face the emptiness and discover that God is in fact there. I didn't. And I would love to hear whatever arguments that they might make to say, hey, I turned around, Kurt, you turned around and found no God. I turned around and found God, and here's the case that I make for the God that I found. I would love to hear that case, because I'm very curious. If God does exist, I would love to know about it. But no one's ever been able to come forth and say, because when they come forth and say, here's the God that I found, and I can feel it in my heart, and it's written in the book, and it's encodified in the tradition, and what else is there, right? I mean, those aren't good reasons to me. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, and back to my quest. So when I say that I don't want the distraction, Julie, it's what I'm saying is that I don't want to be distracted from the good use of time, which is to discover if I'm wrong and God really does exist. But Julie, what I'm getting to, and what I was talking about with Evelyn there, is that I think I've kind of run out. I mean, I've been staring at the blank canvas of a godless universe since I was 16, and I'm 61, and it's like, well, okay, if nothing's shown up yet, then maybe I'm gonna just lump it all and buy a Nintendo PlayStation, right? Or something. Maybe it's time to, to hell with it. God doesn't exist. Let's go fishing. Maybe it's time. In which case, that wouldn't be a distraction. Oh my gosh. In which case, it wouldn't be a distraction. It would be, in fact, a good use of time, right? Because if if I decide conclusively that God doesn't exist, but remain open to the possibility, but give up the active endeavor of seeking, then having a hobby would be a very good response to that. A very good use of time. Thank you, everybody. I think your feedback and your comments here have helped me to realize that what I may need, after all, is a hobby in fact. I wonder what time the fishing store opens. Okay. Julie says, yes, agree with that. And Tim adds, problem with the guitar is the neighbors as I play loud, but recording and using effects is fun. Ah. Robert says, I'll deliver my response in person. I'll deliver my response in person only, Kurt. I imagine you're referring to the case for or against God. I've had that. People tell me that before. If that's what you're referring to, I've had people tell me that before. They say, Kurt, I hear what you're saying about God not existing. I have a reason to believe that God does exist, but I'm not going to tell you what it is until I have a chance to sit down with you in person. It's interesting how many people have actually told me that, and none of them have actually come. And I'm not saying that's because they'd had a bad reason. It's just because the logistics of actually getting face to face is hard. Which is, I'm the one that loses out, because maybe those people that, and maybe you're one of them, Robert, if that's what you're referring to, maybe they do have a good case for the case of God, in which case I'm not going to hear it because we're never going to get a chance to sit together. And I'm sad if that's the case, because I'm really curious. Robert says there are always headphones. That's true. Talking about the music. And here's the hornet back. It's the same one. Third visit. Third's the charm. I better stop. Thanks for thinking out loud with us, Kurt. Oh, you're welcome, Robert. So the hornet's fourth time to visit, and I better get going because the radio exercise is starting soon. Tim says, "LOL to believe in yourself. I like to annoy neighbors. Only kidding." Well, I know what Tim's talking about, because there's something about playing it out loud. You are persistent little hornet. That I understand. Robert says, Kurt, I present in-person meeting as a challenge to myself. Oh, okay. I come see me, Robert. I would love to see that. I'd love to have you come visit. You could take up beekeeping, Kurt. Make your own honey to sell. But you know what, beekeeping, and the hornet is right on the camera right now. Literally, it's right there. Tim, the beekeeping is a challenge here because of these dang hornets. Let's see if I can turn the camera on. You can see that. Whoa, it just zipped past and I turned the camera around. Okay, I think I'm going to sign off. Go do radio exercise. You could always all come together and visit you. That would be nice. Come on down, everybody. All right, thanks for joining me, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. Be safe, but not too safe, as you know, whatever floats your boat. And I wish you all the best. I really do appreciate your engagement. I really do think that I'm going to be giving a lot of thought to what I just discovered today, which is that maybe it's time for me to give up the quest for the existence of God and just pick up a hobby. When hornets come around me, I tell them there's nothing for you here, and they leave me alone. There's nothing for you here. Leave me alone. I don't know how to say that in Japanese. There it is. That's a very small one. Take care. Bye-bye, Tim. Bye-bye.